Hello and welcome everyone to CiusP. This is me, Cypher, and this video we're gonna be talking about the Wood Elf faction. Since we have all of the DLC content out and we have the patch, the last patch is out, I don't believe that we're gonna be having any more content about this faction or this race, so I'm gonna try to break down what we have currently as much as possible and basically show you how to get each faction, their starting location with the offices they have, the changes made post rework for the entire race, how the economy work and how to make the most out of it, and finally the army doomstack potential for each faction. For the campaign for sure. I'm not talking PvP. And yeah, just before jumping into that, I would like to thank you all for watching the video. Special thank for those already subscribed. You are helping this channel a lot. And for those who are not subscribed yet, if you feel that this video is helpful, subscribe. This will help us. Thank you all for watching. And now let's jump and check out a small overview about this race. Okay, so let's start this overview by showing you all four banners for the playable factions currently. The factions are as follow. We have Talcin led by Orion, Arguelon led by Durthu, Heralds of Ariel led by the Sisters of Twilight, and finally the Wargrove of Foe led by Drycow. Now, Talcin, in order to play this faction, you need to own the Total War Warhammer 1. You need to own the Total War Warhammer 2. You need to own the Realm of the Wood Elf DLC from Warhammer 1. You do not need to buy the Twisted and the Twilight from Warhammer 2. And they are only playable on the Moral Empire campaign. You cannot play them on the Eye of the Vortex. Now, since Arguelon has been unlocked on the same DLC, so the same criteria will apply to it, you do not need to buy the Twisted and the Twilight, and they are only playable on the Moral Empire. The Heralds of Ariel, however, you do not need to buy the Warhammer 1, nor do you need to buy the Wood Elf DLC from Warhammer 1. You only need to own the 2 and the Twisted and Twilight, and they will be playable on both the Moral Empire and on the Vortex Campaign. The Wargrove of Woe, this is a gift for people that are considered loyal, so it's cherry on top. You do not need to buy it. It will be given to you if you own the first installment and the second installment of the game, and if you own the Wood Elf DLC with the Twisted and the Twilight. However, it will only be playable on the Moral Empire. You cannot play it on the Eye of the Vortex. And in my opinion, the Wargrove Affo are the most fun to play with their mechanic they have. Now let's jump into the selection screen and show you more details about each factions and their starting location. Now looking at the selection menu, you'll see all four different factions. Starting with Talcin led by Orion, the race leader. We have faction effects, unique wild hunt effect. I'll explain it a bit more once we are on the campaign map. We have +10 for the leadership during force battle, and we have the -15% for cavalry unit. This is really not that good, even if the Hawk Riders are considered cavalry unit, because with this faction you're not going to be recruiting this unit. You don't have the special Volley of Kurnos or whatever it's called that you have when playing the Sisters of Twilight. And the Lord effect, it's still, as you can see, focusing on the cavalry unit, which is not that good. The cavalry for this faction is really not that good. Now let's jump on the world map and show you their starting position. Here we are on the world map starting position for the Talcin faction. Now let's first take a look at your enemies. You'll see that you're at war with 3 different factions. The Orc that are really close by. They are not really that dangerous, but you might want to finish them really quick. We have this faction that starts here. Most of the times they will be wiped out by the AI, but sometimes they will manage to reach you and they can be kind of dangerous. And lastly, we have this faction, which should be the first, in fact, because they are really here and you can delete them really early on. Now, let me just show you the offices for this faction before we jump to the other factions. Now we have Orion, who's gonna be the leader, and he is gonna be giving his faction the raise settlement plus 15%. This lord will lead the wild hunt, during which they will become more powerful in battle. So every lord will become more powerful once the wild hunt starts. We have this office here, which is Spirit of the Hunt. So I'm not gonna be reading all of the. This lord will be joining the wild hunt, during which his strength of all office effects will be doubled. So there will be +8 for Dryad, Tremen leadership for Lord's Army, plus 10% income from raising settlements, and bonus charge for Dryad, Treekin, and Tremen. So most likely you want to place Durthu in this office once you manage to confederate him. We have here the missile strength plus 25%, enemy leadership -6, and income from raising settlement plus 15%. I'd rather be picking the Sisters of Twilight and place them in here because they will not be having any bonus range for the army, and they are the most valuable when it comes to missile strength, so you want to place them in this office. Now for the rest four, we have plus 15% ammunition for local armies, plus 10 for Eternal Guards and Glade Guard units. So this army will be a great for hybrid couple Glade Eternal Guard, sorry, and the rest will be Way Watchers. You'll have some heroes. I'll be explaining a bit more about the army composition later on in the video. This office will give you -10% for War Dancers and Blade Singers unit, plus 10% for War Dancers and Blade Singer unit, and income post-battle plus 25%. So the army here should be Blade Singers for sure, because they are really strong, and I'll show you how this army will look like later on as well. As for this office, you're going to be having raid plus 30%, -15% for all cav unit, and a public order -4% for local enemies. Now they are trying to push you to recruit a cavalry focused army here. You can do that, but yeah, let's say keep this composition for last if you want to recruit it. And lastly, we have the -10% upkeep for Deepwood Scout, Wildwood Rangers, Hawk Riders, Eagle, and Glade Riders. Income from sacking and loading settlement plus 30%, and the campaign movement range plus 30%. Now everything is good. The only thing that is missing is there's no upkeep reduction for Way Watchers. So you're gonna be benefiting from the income and the campaign movement range, but you're not gonna be recruiting Deepwood Scouts or Wildwood Rangers really in the late campaign. So that should be it for this faction. I'll show you now the Durthu's faction. Now back to Argolon or Durthu's faction. We see that recruitment cost for branch race is -15%. This is great, especially in the early game. We have +10 melee attack during the forest battle. This is extremely good. So this faction is really good so far. We have for Lord effects, all units under Durthu's command all immune to all kind of attrition. -30% for Forest Spirit units for Lord's Army, and we have +10 for charge for Dryad, Treekin, and Tremen. So everything in this faction is extremely valuable and beneficial to the faction in general and to the Lord as well. So now let's go back to the world map and show you this faction's location. Okay, now looking at Durthu's starting position, you'll see that first you are at war with the same two beastmen factions, and the only difference is you are at war with the dwarven faction over there. Now the cool thing about Durthu is he can improve his dryads, treemen, treekin, and he can make them much better. Now I like to have that because we have +8 armor piercing. This will really help you in dealing with dwarves. Now the only downside is that dryads are magical attacks, so even with the extra armor penetration, the dwarves has that, so it's gonna be some kind of tricky, but not that much because he's really strong. Now looking at his offices, let's take a look. First, Lord Recruit rank +5 for Ancient Tremen. So they are trying to push you to recruit more Tremen, especially in the early game, because you're gonna benefit a lot from the +5 recruitment rank. The 4 different offices are as follow. We have +25 growth, -20% upkeep for all units, which is great. Casualty replenishment trait +5. And Fulfillment of Mischief. I have no clue what it does. Well, it is shown down there. Attacks the area for 11 seconds and prevent the enemy from moving. So this is really great. So the first office is super good. The second office plus 100% increase in experience per turn, +2 rank for all units. Again, -20% upkeep for all units, and the great improvement or the cluster of radiance, which greatly improve your winds of magic. So again, we have a really beneficial office to get. The third one, -20% upkeep for all units, construction cost -10% for all building, income from all building +10%, and the ability which is the annoyance of nettling, which gives you -10% base weapon damage, -5 melee attack, -10% armor piercing weapon damage. This is for your enemy for sure. Lastly, we have the Ancient of Deliandra, which gives +4% for public order, -20% for all unit upkeep, +10 untainted, and the Resplendence of Luminescence. I butchered that, but well, we get +10% base weapon damage, +5 melee attack, and +10% armor piercing damage for the surrounding allies. So as you can see, the offices for this faction are much better than the offices for Orion's faction. Now let's go to the other faction. Now looking at the Heralds of Ariel, or the latest DLC for this race, we have that we see that we have the Forge of Death. This is really good mechanic that has been added then adjusted with the latest patch for the faction, and this is really good. I'll show you the details once we're on the world map. We have +10 ammunition for all armies, which is really valuable, especially if you want to focus on range combat. And we have the Volley of Kurnos for Hawk Riders, the one that I was talking about for this guy. So when playing this faction, you might consider recruiting some Hawk Riders, but I still prefer the Way Watchers, and you'll see once I start explaining about the armies. Now the Lord effect, we have -15% for missile units, so this will definitely push you to get more Way Watchers, for example, army on her. We have +10 for melee attack for flying units, so this will benefit dragons and will benefit the Hawk Riders. And we also have +15% for flying units regarding their charge, which will also benefit the Hawk Riders and the dragons. Now I don't speak much about this unit because you most likely are not gonna recruit it, but still I'm gonna be recruiting more of the Way Watchers. Now let's jump into the world map and show you their location on the Vortex campaign and on the Mortal Empire campaign. I'm going to start with the Mortal Empire campaign. Now, the faction of the Sisters, or the Heralds of Ariel, on the Mortal Empire campaign, we start at the Witchwood, which is really far in the North American continent, and you also have control of the Oak of Ages. So you have two different settlements that you need to protect. Now, the Oak is not really that bothersome to protect because it will be protected by the surrounding Wood Elf. You just need to focus on this part of the map and snowball basically if you want to conquer all over, or just try to jump in between all the trees to conquer them. This really depends on on the game difficulty, because if you're playing on very hard or legendary, most likely the surrounding opponents or potential enemies will declare war on you, and you're gonna have to deal with them before jumping to other trees. Now let's go to the Eye of the Vortex campaign and show you how they start. Okay, now looking at the Eye of the Vortex map, this faction again starts at the Witchwood. Now you will be at war now with this faction and this faction. One is close by, one is hidden because it's a Beastman faction. However, there is small changes here regarding the amber that you're going to be collecting. Since there's only 4 trees on the Vortex campaign, you will be having to do some quests in order to get the missing amber. And yeah, now that's for the amber. Looking at the faction mechanic, so this faction has a special mechanic, which is the Forge of Death. It has changed after the latest patch. At first used to be really random for the items. Now you can choose which set you want to do. So once you wage war with the sisters, you're gonna be having a Death favor, and you're gonna be able to choose which item you want to craft. Once you craft all the item, or even before you craft all of the item, you can choose whether you want to improve your army instead. Now you have missile resistance plus 15%, armor, all of those stuff, plenty of things to play with, and plenty of items to craft. This is really good. I like it much more than it used to be. It used to be random and really not that beneficial. Now looking at the faction offices, you have 5 offices, excluding that one, which gives you +3 rank for spellweavers. Now this one will give +10% for the leader and income from raising settlement, so this is good. It's unlike the Orion, which give +10 to the entire lords in the local place. Looking at this specific, the Orion's one is better, but in general this faction is better, and I'll show you why. The second one gives +15 for Winds of Magic, +10% weapon strength for all melee units, or all units because even range has the melee, and +2 for Power of Darkness. So here you want to place a Wind Weaver with the lore of Dark, and it's better to recruit this army Blade Singers because they will benefit from the 10% extra damage. You can recruit an army of Tremen, but I'd rather have +10% on the Blade Singers because there's more model. Now this office will give the character the title Glamour Weaver, minus 75% to Loic Blessing, and stock for War Dancers and Blade Singers. So again, you will be having to recruit War Dancers, Blade Singer here, since they will benefit the most from those traits. The third one, or the fourth one, you're gonna be having base weapon damage for the Lord +100 when mounted on an Elven Steed, Grey Stag, Unicorn, or Great Eagle mount, and you're gonna be having +2 for transmutation of Caden. Now this office is the worst because Blade Singers are, yeah, Blade Singers. They are not meant to fight in melee. Even with the plus 100 base weapon damage, they're still gonna be weak, and you do not really want them to stack up their nose in a battle. This one, it gives you -3 cost for the Awakening of the Woods and regeneration for Dryad, Treekin, and Treeman. So this army is definitely need to be Tremen army, and I'm gonna be leading this army with a Tremen Lord because, well, it's better to get those traits. And lastly, we're gonna be having the -25% miscast base chance for all faction, ward save plus 10% for Lord's army, and -2 for Apotheosis. So it's a High Lord spell weaver, and most likely you're gonna be putting this army either as a Blade Singer or a Treeman. I did a army of Way Watchers here because the plus 10% for Treeman. I'll show you this army, what I did for it, and it was really efficient, and I managed to do a lot with it. So basically, this is the Heralds of Ariel. Now let's go to the fourth and final Lord. And lastly, we have the Wargrove of Woe or Dryka. This faction is the most valuable in my opinion between all four. It's the most fun, and I bet it's the best faction to play if you want to focus on monster troops. I'll show you her army composition later, and we'll show you how versatile this faction is and how easily you can recruit an army whenever you want, wherever you want. Now, regarding the faction effects, we have -10% upkeep for all Dryads, Treekin, and Treemen, which is extremely important because you're gonna be focusing on this kind of armies when playing this faction. And all Elven units are glamoured, reducing their combat power and making them expendable. So let's say you lost an Elven unit when playing this faction, knowing that you do not have that much options, you're not gonna be affecting your army in battle. Lastly, the Lord effect has -5 for the public order. Well, when playing this faction, you'll know that the the public order is not really an issue. We have plus 10% for Dryad units in Lord's army, which is so strong, especially in the early game, and plus 5 melee attack for the Dryad as well, which shall also improve or benefit your early game bonuses or early game play. Now let's jump onto the world map and show you her starting location. Lastly, here we are introducing the fourth and last faction for this race. It's a Dryka, or the Wargrove of Woe. I consider this faction to be the most entertaining faction and the easiest faction in the early mid game for a couple reasons. Well, first, you can recruit these guys right away. You don't need to wait any time to recruit them. You can just spam some units and go take over some lands. And the other thing is this faction's Dryad or Forest Spirit units are not like the rest. She has Malevolent Dryads, Malevolent Treekin, and Malevolent Treemen that you can recruit at tier 3. So endgame units at tier 3, and they are better than the regular ones. They have slightly better stats with a frenzy, so they are way better than the rest. Now, as you can see at this faction, you cannot recruit high-end tiers for the Elven unit. You basically can only recruit Deepwood Scout at highest and some kind of Wild Rangers. You cannot recruit the Blade Dancers, and you do not have a Forest Weaver or Blade Singer. I forgot the name of the hero that casts. Maybe it's Forest Weaver. However, you're gonna be using the Malevolent Branch Wraith. You have all three schools of magic: life, beasts, and shadows. And in my opinion, these guys are better than the Spell Weavers. The only downside for this faction is you cannot really cheese on the Winds of Magic by recruiting a Lord Spell Weaver, then Disbander. So yeah, this was the Drycast faction, And now let's jump to the general economy of this race and their rework. Okay, now we're gonna be talking about the overhaul or the changes that has been made after the Twisted and the Twilight DLC and about the faction economy. I'm gonna start with the overhaul. Now we have 8 different trees. It used to be only the trees in Athelloren, the tree over there, I believe its name Laurelon's Forest, and the Orient's Camp down here, plus the Gainville. Uh, Moreover, they have now they added 3 buildings, or they changed it to be 3 buildings. It used to be only 1 building that increases the income. Now we have 3, and for sure we do have the Heathlands. Now they do not provide any kind of bonus to the faction. They only provide a bonus to the tree. So even if you control a bazillion one, you're not gonna get more cash, which I would have loved to see Heathland to be leveled up to level 3 and maybe get 50 gold per level, same as let's say a this building, Elven Colony. So as you can see, we get 50, 75, 100, and you get an extra building slot. Now I'm getting all those building slots because of the mod I'm using, but it's only just as an eye candy. They really don't affect your economy whatsoever. Now you're asking me how am I having all that much even though I'm playing on legendary and I have plenty of lords. Now for a couple reasons. At first, I'm controlling all over the trees in the globe. I'm having good trade with the surrounding factions, so you do need to have good trades. And thirdly, settlements that provide great amount of income or decent amount of income. You have the settlements that has the ports. As you can see, every port will give you 100 plus the 100 from this upgrade, but I'm making even more. As you can see, I'm making 692. Now why is that? It's simple. They added another mechanic in this game, which is plus 10% for every single race capital that you control. And I have plenty of them. I'll show you all of them now. If you control all of them, you're gonna make more than 100% income from all of the buildings that you control. So all of the ports, even these buildings here, where is it? So as you can see, the gold mine is making me 369. From the port, I'm making where is it, 692, and from this building I'm making 3500. So yeah, you do need to hunt the racial capitals when you are playing as Wood Elf, and I'll show you them all right here. So starting with the American continent, you have Nagaron. You have Now, this is a elven colony. You might want to control it, but it's not gonna affect your income as much as racial capital. You have Exalt here. I haven't captured it yet. You have Itza. You have the Awakening back north. You have the Konkara. You have where is it? Adolf. You have Kuran. Back down there you have Skaven Blight, and yeah, Skaven Blight, what is it called, this Mirgaliano. You have Sartosa, you have Karaz Akarak, where is it, Black Crag, Karak 8 Peak, you have here Kislev. You have also the Helpit. Back inside, you have where is it? You have Lamia, and yeah, that should be it. So we have more than 100% income from all of those buildings, which is the reason that I'm making all of that money. So you definitely need to control all trees, but keep in mind that ports are really important, especially if you control more of the racial capitals, and even those slight buildings will have changes if you control more racial capital, because now it's making me roughly a 184. Now let me show you about the armies that you can recruit when playing this faction, and the most beneficial armies that you can recruit. But just before doing that, let me show you the most valuable thing that has happened to this faction after the overhaul or the rework, and it is the deep roots. So as you can see, I have a lord over there. This thing is giving this faction overpowered power that you can move any lord within a tree to another tree in an instant. For example, I have a lord here in the Orion's camp. Let's say I want to move her to, let's say, the farthest one in the Witchwood. It will simply be one click, and there you go, she's over there. And she is preserving her movement range, so she did not use anything to move. For me, it's only one turn because I just finished a ritual of rebirth. Otherwise, should be either 3 turn or 4 turn. So as you can see, this is so powerful. If you feel you have an enemy coming this way or to any other tree, you can simply move a lord instantaneously to that place, and you're gonna be able to deal with that. So this is the last thing that I wanted to talk about regarding the overhaul, and it is actually the most important one. So now let's go back to the armies creation or army doomstack part of this video. Okay, so now talking about armies. This army is a doomstack. I recruited a couple Tremen just to give them the siege attacker. I do have it here, but I'd rather be having a couple Tremen to hold the line and to be able to break through siege battle really easily. I have this hero over there. She's gonna increase my range. I have this guy now, even though you might think he's weak, but he's really important when you have an army of Way Watchers, because he simply has that, so you can pin down enemies trying to reach your units. Have a healer, a mage, and this lord with a talent of Kurnos. Now there is something that I don't understand. If any one of you knows, please let me know in the comments below. My units are reaching 266 range. Now I did all of the calculation. They should only reach as this guy 238. So I have no idea why I'm having 266. It's a bit more. I would love to know so I can make all of my armies reaching 266. But yeah, anyway, it's 266 that you can reach. 238 is the normal, 266 I have no idea how I reached it. And the second army is an army full of Tremen. Now I used these guys just because I didn't want to disband them, but you want to have Tremen. So Tremen army over there. This army is extremely powerful, and you can basically win anything with it. But once you have a Tremen army, you do not want to have a Way Watcher, because he's not going to be any kind of beneficial to this army. There's a third Doomstack I'm going to be showing you right now. Okay, so the third Doomstack that you might consider recruiting is an army of Blade Singers. Now I have a couple Tremen just to give them the siege attacker trait, but this unit rocks once it's leveled up. Early on, before leveling up and before becoming golden chevrons, they are kind of weak because you do not have this bonus over there, which is plus 15% physical resistance for Eternal Guard, Dryad, War Dancers, Blade Singers, and Wildwood Ranger unit. So as you can see here, I'm at 50% physical resistance. I'm gonna get plus 5% from that, and if you do have bonuses, you might find some bonus from post-battle loot that will increase 5%. the physical resistance, so you might end up at 60%. And if you have more of these guys, you can even make it better. But this unit at 50%, I'm not saying more rocks, it's really powerful, and the damage output is super strong. The melee attack, as you can see, is at 87. Now that's because I'm using banners over there, as you can see, plus 4, so you can have the banners on all heroes, and I'm using this guy particularly to get the banner on and to increase their melee attack. So yeah, this is the third one. It's really powerful, and you would really enjoy recruiting it because it has some kind of a different flavor than the Waywatcher Doomsack or the Tremen Doomsack. And if you're asking me about Draika's armies, then you need to focus on Tremen for sure. And if you want, you can just add in a couple other units. I'll show you in a bit. Okay, now looking at the fourth and last faction. The Doom stack for this faction is pretty much straightforward. You need to focus on forest spirits. As you can see here, I'm having an hybrid army, even though they are 35%. But anyways, I'm having this kind of army just to have fun. But if you want to focus on a Doom stack army, you need to either have full Treeman. Well, you can't even recruit more types of armies. You only have a Treeman army that you can recruit, and just give it a couple of the Forest Dragons to give it the flanking capability. Now that should be it for this faction. And yeah, one more thing before I sum up. I want to let you know that when I was playing Draika, I was unable to configure Orion nor the sisters. I was only capable of configuring Durthu. However, when I was playing the sisters and Orion, I was capable of configuring Draika. That should be it for this video. I really hope that you got some information out of it. Give me a like and subscribe for more Total War content. And if you found that I missed any information, feel free to leave a comment below. This will be very helpful to me and for the rest of you guys. This me Cypher. Thank you guys very much for watching, and see you on the next one.